Yo, what's up everybody, it's your boy Elvius4 coming back with another video up on the channel, which is today, what if Izuku or Deku was Ace? So yeah, before we go into this, I'd just like to say that there will be a 50 like goal for this video to continue the series. You guys really did enjoy the last part, or the last series, which was Tanjiro one, so yeah, I'll be continuing that one as per usual. So yeah, before we actually get into it, we just need to go over a few things that Ace has as his powers, which is more predominantly his haki. So if you guys haven't watched One Piece or you don't know what haki is, it's like your spiritual energy, or your spirit or will put into physical form. So there's three parts to haki, which is the observation haki, which basically means that you can kind of see or predict stuff from the future and stuff like that, as well as armament haki, which basically, it's an invisible armor, so that's where a lot of the strength will come into that and defense, as well as the conqueror's haki, which Ace has all three types. If we look at the data books of a lot of other novelizations of Ace's story in Whitebeard's crew, Ace is confirmed to have all three types of haki, but doesn't really use his conqueror's haki. But for this story, and all intents and purposes for this, he will be able to use all three types of haki and the devil fruit, which is the mera mera no mi, or the flare flare fruit, or flame flame fruit, whichever translation you actually like. He will be having that. A few other things that you also need to go over for this what if is that haki will only be given to Izuku, and I know it's gonna make him having the logia fruit kind of OP, but that's pretty much what Ace would be in My Hero Academia, OP as hell. So without further ado, let's just get right into this what if. We start this what if with Izuku's birth. Izuku's parents would be the exact same as it is in the original, with Inko and his absent father. With Izuku's looks as different than what he would be in the original. Izuku's hair wouldn't have the green tips as it does in his canon counterpart, but instead be all black, as well as his eyes that wouldn't have the green hue to it, but would instead be pitch black, basically looking exactly like Ace. With Izuku's birth, everything would play out to the original what it would usually happen, with Izuku for the first 4 years of his life being extremely happy, having an actual loving mother, and being surrounded by love and affection. His father, however, in the first 4 years of his life, would have to move abroad, going off to America for work to help support his family. But this wouldn't really affect Izuku whatsoever, as because he's so young and having an absent father, he wouldn't really have the mental capabilities to really understand what's really happening. On Izuku's fourth birthday, he would be extremely excited and immediately go rush to his mother's room to wake her up, telling her that they need to go to the doctor to find out what his quirk is. With Inko smiling and agreeing, they would head into the car after getting ready and having breakfast. Driving on their way to the quirk doctor place with the evil doctor, Dr. Ujika, who we know in canon is All for One's doctor. Arriving at the place, Izuku, much like in the original, would be diagnosed quirkless, having an extra joint in his pinky toe. Izuku's face would be absolutely devastated. Everything around him would just freeze in place. Izuku would realize that his one true goal in life, to become a true hero, reminiscing of all the times that All Might had saved people with a smile, he'd drop his All Might figure onto the ground and would start to cry. Inko, seeing this, she would immediately try to console Izuku, and the doctor would say that he needs to give up on his dreams of becoming a superhero. We skip to the next week, Izuku going to school, with Izuku being kind of friends with Bakugo and his little gang at this point. He would tell them that he is quirkless. Bakugo, who had already gotten his quirk at this point, being explosions, would start to berate Izuku. But with Izuku having the same type of personality as Ace, which I probably haven't said before, but it will still be the exact same. He wouldn't take this from Bakugo, instead punching him straight square in the face, hitting him to the ground, making his nose bleed. Bakugo would start to cry, as he still is a 4-year-old, and would scream for the teachers. All the teachers would come up and ask what happened, and Bakugo and his little goons would say that Izuku punched him in the face. Izuku would say yeah, he did, but that was because he was making fun of him for being quirkless. the teachers, who were obviously against Quirkless people, would say that Izuku did something terrible and needs to be punished. Izuku would be immediately sent home, his mother picking him up and sending him back home. Inko would ask Izuku what happened, with Izuku saying that he was being picked on for being Quirkless, but he wouldn't let that happen. He wouldn't let anyone pick on him for being weak, as he is strong. Inko saying that seeing Izuku is got the mentality of being strong, she would try to console him in that type of scenario, as she thinks that he's compensating for being Quirkless. We'll skip through for another 4 years to when Izuku is 8 years old. Izuku is 8 years old. He is still in the same middle school with Bakugo and everyone else, but has distanced himself from him. This is because he knows that Bakugo isn't really a good person, and has decided that there's no way that he is going to continue to be friends with someone that berates him for being Quirkless. As Izuku is wandering through the little forest where they usually are after school, he'd be wandering around the place and would find a very strange fruit on the ground. He would look at the fruit, and it's orange and looks to be reminiscent of a flame. Izuku, who hadn't packed his lunch during the day at school, would be feeling a little hungry, and thinking that this is just a strange fruit, he would decide to take a bite out of it, immediately swallowing it whole. Izuku would then immediately try to spit it out, but it's already gone down his mouth. He says that it was absolutely disgusting, and there's no way they would eat something like this ever again. But as he's walking back to the school, as it was, after school, and his mother was going to pick him up, his body starts to burn, and flames start to come off of Izuku's skin. Izuku starts to scream, saying that he's on fire, but then realizes that this doesn't hurt whatsoever. He would look at the flames and kind of control it, as now his body is literal fire. Immediately after controlling his fire, or his entire body is fire, he would immediately smile and start to run back to where his mother was going to pick him up. Immediately seeing his mother in the parking lot on where the school is, he would immediately run up to his mother, opening the door, and say that he got a quirk. Immediately his hand and his body would burst into flames, as his mother would be instantly scared, as her child is on fire. Seeing that his mother is being a little terrified of this, he would stop the fire and say that his quirk must be a fire type power, just like his dad's. Seeing that this would be possibly true, she would immediately take Izuku to the quirk doctor and get him checked up. At the quirk doctor, it would be a different doctor than Dr. Izuku, and the doctor would say that Izuku has a phenomenal fire quirk. Seeing that his bone, that he still does have the extra joint in his bone, this must be a new type of quirk evolution, and would tell Inko that Izuku's quirk, basically his entire body is fire. He has complete control over fire and doesn't have any backside to this quirk whatsoever, like any other hero, like the number 2 hero, Endeavor. Inko would immediately smile, saying that her son must have a very strong quirk if it's stronger than the number 2 hero, Endeavor's. The doctor would say that Izuku seems to have perfect control of his quirk already and doesn't really need to train it whatsoever. Izuku would immediately smile, saying that of course he's got a strong quirk. He's Izuku D. Midoriya. After that, we'll have a time skip to when Izuku is in the last year of his middle school, where Izuku would be 14 years old during his last year at school. As Izuku in middle school, after he got his quirk at 8 years old, seeing that it must be a late quirk activation, Izuku would be immediately become popular amongst his classmates, and would still not be friends with Bakugo. As Bakugo did see Izuku as a threat to being the number 1 hero, he would try to pick on Izuku even more, but with Izuku having a much fiercer personality than the original, he wouldn't let Bakugo do this, fighting with Bakugo whenever he could, punching him in the face, burning him, just, anything that he could, and Bakugo wouldn't really have anything that he could do to this, as Izuku is a logia type devil fruit user in this verse, because no one else has devil fruits. He wouldn't be able to touch Izuku whatsoever, which would be a massive benefit to Izuku. His classmates would all celebrate Izuku being so strong and having such an amazing quirk, and Izuku would take this all in. Being, his personality, he would still want to be a hero and would still want to save as many people as possible. With Izuku again, having this, not really quirk, but the devil fruit, the Merumeru no Mi, he'd be so strong at this point. At his 14 years old age, Izuku would be able to pretty much perform any other fire technique that Ace really does have in the original, which, would be extremely powerful, different techniques that he can use. We start now on one of the last days of Izuku's middle school, where Izuku's teacher would scold the class, telling them that it's time to think about their futures. He would then hand out printouts for the students' desired life courses, and a lot of the students would want to be heroes, with them all shouting out as such, and would start to use their quirks. The only two that didn't use their quirks was Bakugo and Izuku, as he doesn't really have a quirk, but still didn't use his fire abilities. He reminds the class that they're not allowed to use their quirks during school hours, and would reprimand them. The teacher then tells everyone that, Katsuki tells the teacher not to group him in with everyone at this class, because his quirk is much stronger than theirs. His classmates yell at him, saying that there's no way he has the strongest quirk, and Midoriya's quirk is so much stronger than his. Katsuki would immediately try to shut him up, but Izuku would look at him, staring at him, and that would shut Bakugo up straight away. That being said, Izuku would grab all his notebooks and head out the class, making his way back home. But because of, all this stuff happening, Katsuki would be still furious at Izuku staring at him so menacingly. With Katsuki and his little goons being annoyed at this, he would pack up his stuff and go off to somewhere else to probably play at the arcade or something. Izuku walking home, he would go to the grocery store to get a few things before going home, as his mother had asked him to get the milk when he's coming back home, as his dad went to get milk ages ago but never came back. Izuku, who is now coming back, he would go underneath a runway over the bridge and would start to walk when he senses something. Not really senses, but it's a third sense in Izuku's mind, as the sludge villain jumps out of the sewage grate and would immediately try to go towards Izuku. Izuku, seeing this, would immediately do a fire fist and throw it towards the sludge villain, exploding him instantly. The sludge would go everywhere, spraying on all the walls, and would then start to melt as the fire is continuously burning the sludge. The sludge villain would immediately scream out for help as he's burning alive. All Might, jumping out of the grate, would see this all and immediately use a type of a clap, like the Hulk's clap. He would use a clap to throw all the fire off the villain, and the villain would be knocked out at this point. Grabbing a bottle, he would immediately scoop up the villain and ask if the young boy did this. Izuku would say that he did, and All Might would reprimand Izuku, saying that I think he went a little too far, burning the villain to this point. He could have killed him. Izuku said that the villain tried to attack him, and it was just self-defense. All Might would ask Izuku what his quirk is, and Izuku would say that his quirk basically allows his entire body to be fire. He's intangible, and so no one can really touch him, showing All Might that his body and his entire arm is just combusted into flames, and it doesn't affect him whatsoever. All Might would reminisce on this as he thinks of Endeavor, asking who Izuku's father was. Izuku says that his father's gone to America, and he hasn't seen him for a while, as he's sending money back home for, Izuku and his mother to continue living. All Might would realize that his time's coming to an end and he needs to leave. He would thank the young man for basically doing his job and would jump away, Izuku not getting out the last words and asking for an autograph. All Might jumping away wouldn't think anything of it and wouldn't drop the bottle as Izuku didn't grab onto his leg. That would be the last time that Izuku sees All Might for a while. We'll skip now to basically a time stick of 10 months, where Izuku is now 15 years old and getting ready to go to the entrance exam for UA. Izuku's walking down to the entrance after his 10-month time skip, by the way. I don't know if I said that, I think I did. He would be walking down to the UA entrance. Walking into it, he would see a girl who seems to be extremely nervous. as well as Bakugo, who seems to be in a terrible mood this morning and is walking to the entrance. Izuku wouldn't think anything about it and would walk into the entrance. Inside UA, President Mike would explain how the entrance exam works, beginning with the practical test and then afterwards the written test, saying that their goal in the practice test is to dispatch as many villains, which are the robots, as they possibly can to earn a high score. With the practical exam now beginning, Izuku would be given his little number to go towards the certain location where they would do the test. With them all going, he would see a man with, a teen with engines at the back of his legs. He would think that that's pretty cool, but wouldn't go to talk to the boy, as he does seem a bit uptight. Izuku in the entrance, and then where the practical test will be beginning, he would be very calm and collected, as he doesn't really think that this will be as hard or challenging as possible for him. And with President Mike saying that they need to go, the gates would open, and Izuku would use his flame to propel himself, launching himself in a massive roar of flames. Going inside, he would see as many different robots as he could pretty much see, and would use the fire gun, pointing his fingers towards the robots, and would shoot massive fire bullets towards them as they all compress in the air. The bullets would immediately destroy every single robot, making them explode into millions of pieces. The camera's getting this. The teachers will all be able to see the massive amount of power that Izuku holds, as he's literally running through every single villain, the villain robots that he sees, getting rid of them in an instant. With Izuku going all around the entire, premises of where he is, he'd be using his fire gun or fire fist, as well as his heat haze, in which he would shoot a large amount of fire from the palm of his hand towards the robots, destroying them. Izuku would collect so many points that it'd be outrageous for the teachers to think that he is not going to get into the academy. With Izuku now getting at the top points of 250 points or villain points, he would also get a few hero points, in which he would save a few contestants from being hit or anything like that, using his fire to destroy the robots before they could actually hit them. With Izuku thinking that he's got enough points now, he would sit down and relax, just chilling on the side of the road, as a lot of the other students are annoyed at him for taking as many robot points as possible and not letting them get enough points. Izuku, relaxing, would feel a sudden vibration as a massive robot would come around the corner. Izuku, seeing this robot, will realize that this is the 0-point robot that President Mike was talking about before, and would get ready to fight this giant robot by himself, as all the other contestants are running away. Izuku would have a smile on his face, saying that he will be able to use his base technique that he has right now. Izuku would immediately rush up into the air, jumping as high as he can into the air, using his flames to propel himself. It would say, "Great Flame, Commandment, Flame Emperor." Izuku's ultimate technique, he would gather a large amount of spiraling flame, all combusted into a pretty much a giant sun. Izuku would launch the massive sun flames towards the robot, immediately destroying and melting it. The city would be melted as well, and Ochako wouldn't be under the rubble like in the original, as she'd be somewhere else trying to get as many robot points as she can, as Izuku had taken all the robots in that area. With the 0-point robot being melted and, around the actual vicinity of the robot place, as well as all the buildings, they'd be completely in rubble and in ash, as Izuku had basically made a giant sun and thrown it at the city. With that being said, the exam would end and they'd all be in awe of Izuku's powers, and would see that it didn't actually take any fatigue off Izuku whatsoever. He seemed to be in tip-top condition in their eyes, and would also, say that as well to each other. Izuku would smirk, saying that wasn't even 1% of his power. Obviously lying, but he would obviously say that just to seem cool, and would walk past everyone. Going out, they would do the actual, not the practical, the written test, and wouldn't get real high scores in that, as he is Izuku, but he also is Ace in this point, as Ace wasn't really that intelligent. with Izuku not getting a real high score in the actual written exam, but having an extremely high score in the practical, he'd be put into 1A. Izuku would go home telling his mother that he did an exceptional job in the practical exam and also did an amazing job in the written exam, lying to his mother, not trying to make her worry whatsoever. After a week of waiting, a UA would send in the mail his acceptance letter. Izuku would be greeted by All Might saying that he got an amazing job. He did an amazing job during the practical exam and will be put into class 1A. And he would also be a teacher there as well. With that being said and done, he would go the next week towards UA. So that, guys, that's where I'm pretty much going to leave it. I'm not going to go through any more of this what if. If you guys did enjoy this, please hit that like button, subscribe button, and I'll see you guys later.